In today's video, we will go over the evolution of every LEGO Spider-Man villain in the LEGO video games. Spider-Man has one of the most impressive villain rosters out of any superhero, so it's no wonder why many are featured in the LEGO Marvel video games. This video is a part of a 3-part series where I go over every Spider-Man related character in the LEGO Marvel video games, so after this video check them out if you haven't already. Let's start off with the character who makes the most appearances in the games, it's Venom. His normal version appears in both LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2. In both games, his base appearance is the same, which is also the same as the minifig released for the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show sets. They both have animalistic movement types like we see in characters like Beast. Both Venoms can web swing, shoot webs, stick to walls and hangs upside down. Venom from the first game can use spider sense, while Venom from the second game can launch in the air, crawl on walls, launch from walls and use special abilities. Probably their most famous ability that they share is transforming in a Big Fig. In the first game he is simply called Big Venom, while in the second game he is called Ultimate Venom. Both have the same body design, with the one in the second game being more animal-like and having an open mouth and a tongue. In both games, the upgraded Venom act like big characters like the Hulk, having a brute fighting style, being able to ground slam and pick up rubble to throw. In the first game you can clap and create a shockwave, and in the second game you can even web swing. In the first LEGO Superheroes game, there are also two Venom associated characters, the Symbiote Scientist and the Symbiote Scientist in a hazmat suit. They are prominent enemies in the story. Both have a slow attack style, but you can grow a sharp arm thanks to the symbiote to boost damage. In the second LEGO Superheroes game, there are also two Venom associated characters. The first one is Venom 2099, who in comparison to the normal Venom has a blue color scheme inspired on his comic book appearance. He does share the same abilities as the other Venom, but the only difference is his special move, where Venom 29 releases toxic gas. The other Venom character in this game is Agent-Venom. He kind of reminds me of Spider-Man Noir that we went over in the previous video. He has some abilities of Spider-Man while still using a machine gun. He can swing but not launch off the ground, climb on walls but not launch off those walls. He can shoot his weapon and he can shoot around him with his special ability. Let's move on to one of Venom's offsprings, Carnage. He appeared in both the first and second game, where they have similar designs to Venom, but are still different from one another. The eyes, the mouth and the sprinting on their body look different in both games. The appendages and the animalistic behavior are present in both characters. Their shared abilities are web swinging, sticking to walls, hanging upside down and shooting webs. In the first game, Carnage can use a super sense, while in the second game, Carnage can launch in the air, crawl on walls, launch from those walls and use his special ability. What do you get when you combine Venom and Carnage into one? You get Carnom. He's an original creation of the game, so he hasn't made any appearances after this since. He's a big minifig and has the same appearance as the Ultimate Venom, mixed with parts of Carnage and has a spine. His abilities are similar to that of the Ultimate Venom. He fights as a brute, he can ground pound with an axe, pick up rubble, march forward, run on walls, launch on the ground, web spring and hang upside down. In the story he also transforms into Maximum Carnage, which is a bigger, more scarier version of his normal self. This transformation isn't possible in free roam. One of Spider-Man's most evil villains, the Greeb Goblin, is a part of the first game and the second game. In both games they have a similar design, but in the second game he has a pinker color palette, with a purple handbag, and the green on his body is more detailed. Also their pumpkin bombs take on a different appearance in both games. In the second game he is also able to shoot an electric beam and has a more sneakier look to him overall. Both their mode of transportation is their glider, who functions the same, but have a different look to them. The one in the second game is bigger and he has a green finish to it. Another mode of transportation is Greeb Goblin's pumpkin helicopter from the first game. There are also 2 variations of the characters, one in each game. In the first game you have the Ultimate Green Goblin based on the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, who is of the big minifig kind, so he has the abilities of one. He has a brute fighting style, can pick up rubble, ground pound and punch his fists together to create a shockwave. The other variation is the Green Goblin 2099. This version is based on his comic book appearances, and he throws energy shock grenades, shoots a heat beam, and can fly with actual wings of his suit. One of Spidey's most brilliant villains, Doc Ock, appears in both the superheroes games. The minifig itself kind of look alike, although the one from the first game doesn't have yellow boots and wears a white lab coat. The biggest difference between the two is obviously the arms. The ones in the first game are slimmer and the arms in the second game are bigger and have bigger claws. They both too have similar abilities, like fighting and ground pound, but the ones in the second game are superior, like picking up rubble, launching in the air, climbing on walls, launching from set walls, and having a special ability. Another difference between the two are their sprinting animation, with the one from the first game just looking goofy. One nice thing of the first game is that you can swap between the normal Doc Ock and the one from the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. Both have identical abilities. Kurt Connors, the scientist itself, only appears in the first game. Not much to note other than he throws mini lizards at enemies. His alter ego, the Lizard, does appear in both the superhero games. The one in the second game has a more detailed look to him, from his scales to his nails to his tongue to his ripped lab coat. Both the Lizard have a heavy fighting style, throw rubble and ground pound. The one in the second game can also jump really high, do a spin attack, crawl on walls and jump off those walls. Elektro is featured in both the first and second game, and in each game he has a custom variation, leaving us with 4 Elektros to choose from in the LEGO games. Each game has a comic accurate one that are identical to one another. In the first game we have an Ultimate Elektro that is based on the Ultimate TV show, and the second game we have an Elektro 2099 that doesn't really match the one from the comics. All the Elektros can shoot electric bolts and fire an electric beam. The one difference between the games is that the ones from the first game fly on a sort of glider, while the others fly with their powers. Kraven the Hunter makes an appearance in both the superhero games. At first glance they look alike, but the details differ from one another, like the hairpiece, the face, the fur and the necklace in the second game, the body printing and his pants. Both versions fight with a spear, can ground pound and throw their spear. In the first game you can also use a super sense and a grapple hook. Kingpin has the same design across both the first and the second game, only with a slightly more detailed undershirt in the second game. Both have a brute fighting style and can shoot out of their cane, with the one in the second game being a more magical cane because it shoots purple bolts. The one from the first game can also pick up rubble. Speaking of the first game, Kingpin also has a henchman who has a handgun. Taskmaster is the only Spider-Man villain to appear in all 3 games. All versions have the same exact look, but the shield from the first game does look different from the rest. They all fight with a sword and shield and can shoot their bow. Each game also has a unique special ability. In Superheroes 1 it's sneaking, in Avengers it's shooting explosive arrows, and in the second superhero game it's a charge attack. Sandman is a part of both superheroes games. In the first one he has a standard comic book appearance with a darker shade of brown hair in comparison to the second game. His body isn't also partially covered in sand. Both versions slide on the ground, transform their hands while fighting, ground pound, shoot different projectiles and turn into a cannon to shoot sand. In the first game you can transform into the sandcastle, and in the second game you can glide downwards and dig yourself in the ground to create a shockwave. Black Cat is sometimes an ally, a lover and sometimes a villain to Spidey. Nonetheless, she has appeared in both the first and the second game. Small details differentiate them both, like the mask, leg pieces and the neck print. In the first game, she's much more basic when it comes to her abilities. She has a super sense and can use her grapple hook. In the other game, she can use a grapple hook to swing around. She can also climb on walls, create a shockwave and launch at enemies. The Shocker has made 3 appearances across both the superhero games, 1 in the first game and 2 in the second game. Both games have a comic-accurate Shocker, who looks identical to one another, only with a different headpiece. The other version is the one based on Spider-Man Homecoming. They all function the same, shooting shockwave bolts, with one having a shockwave beam and the other one creating a shockwave field. The Vulture got the same treatment as the Shocker. In the first game we have a comic-accurate Vulture and in the second game too, but the second game also has one based on Spider-Man Homecoming. The comic book ones have a different colored wings and the one from the first game has a neck piece. All their abilities differ. The first one has a handgun, the second one can throw feathers and the gravity mine, while the third one has a Shantari gun who also shoots and blasts beams. Mysterio is the only villain that has the exact same abilities across both the superhero games. They shoot bolts, shoot a beam and can turn invisible. Their only differences are their helmets and the small details on their body piece. Rhino in both the superhero games look the same at first glance, but some details make them different. In the first game he has eyes on the side of his head and toenails, while in the one from the second game has different horns on his head. Both characters can ram their enemies and can pick up rubble. The one from the second game is a little bit more fleshed out, with a super jump and a longer charge attack. Scorpion only appeared in Superheroes 2. His design is the same we see in his real-life minifig. His abilities consist of firing poisonous bolts from his tail, shoot a heat beam out of his tail, a super jump and the ability to climb on walls and launch off them. Hammerhead also only appeared in the second game. He wears a blue suit, which he has often on in the comics. He uses his head here to his advantage, like ramming it into enemies and slamming it on the ground. You can also use his Tommy gun for long range. The Hobgoblin also only appears in the last game. Most his abilities are the same as the Green Goblin, like pumpkin bombs and shooting a beam, but their gliders are different designs. In my video where I made a list of every LEGO Spider-Man villain minifigure, I left out Beetle. Some pointed out that I should have included him, so here he is. Beetle only appeared in the first Superheroes game, where he has the same model as his LEGO minifigure. He shoots blue bolts, fires a fire beam and can fly around the city. Another villain I forgot in that minifigure video was the legend Morbius. He only appeared in Superheroes 2. His abilities are flight, a spinning attack and a charge attack. That has been the evolution of every Spider-Man villain character in the LEGO video games. With that, take care and bye for now.